Good morning and welcome to the May 19th, 2012 TV Toastmasters meeting. We have a great meeting in store for everyone. I'm thrilled to have those of you looking in from home. We have our studio audience here. We have prepared speeches that are going to be presented. We will have table topics as well as our evaluation component for today's meeting. I'd like to share with you the mission of a Toastmasters Club, which is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment for every individual member so that they will have an opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn will foster self-confidence and personal growth. I hope you like what you see today, and even better, I hope you will come and visit us. We meet at the Anderson Community Center at 7855 Mile Road. Our Saturday meetings begin at 9 a.m., and we'd love to have you come and visit us. Help me introduce today's Toastmaster for our meeting, Rick Barron. He's going to be the MC for our meeting this morning, making sure everything stays on time and in order. Help me welcome Rick Barron.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you here in the studio, and thank you for joining us at home. As Toastmaster, Steve mentioned my role is to MC the meeting. I've been in TV Toastmasters for 4 years, and over the course of those 4 years, sometimes we get visitors that come in to join us, but not very often. And that really shocks me why so many other people would not want to come to TV Toastmasters and to see what we have to offer. Today we have 2 visiting Toastmasters that are with us. Dorothy Blake and Alan Blake are here from the Tri-County Toastmasters to visit us today. Welcome to both of you, and we look forward to your participation in the meeting today. If you're a Toastmaster out there and you're wondering what the TV Toastmasters experience is like, there's only one way to find out, and that is to come, sit in the studio, and participate with us. We're going to get the meeting started today with our word of the day, our counter, and our grammarian. It's my pleasure to reintroduce Steve Aronholtz.
Thank you, Rick. I decided to go with a word of the day that is actually something we as Toastmasters work on using in our presentation. The word of the day that I've chosen for us to use is pause. Pauses can add emphasis. They provide the audience an opportunity to reflect on what has just been said. They can also add interest as far as breaking up a speech. If there's something that you want to do and then you want to move on to something else, it's sort of a momentary pause where then the audience thinks, okay, what's going to happen next? I'm the counter and grammarian for today's meeting as well. I'm going to be listening as to whether I hear people use the word pause in their speaking this morning. I don't know how often I will actually hear the word of the day used, but I thought it would be interesting to actually look at using our word of the day in action. If you use the word, that's a bonus, but I thought, let's take a little different approach to the word of the day. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Steve. I love when people come up with new and interesting ways in which we can put twists on our Toastmasters meeting. Our next phase of the meeting is our impromptu speaking phase called Table Topics. Ever sat in a meeting at work and had a boss or manager point to you and say, I don't know, what do you think? Ever been in a dinner party and had somebody come up to you and ask you a question you really weren't prepared to answer? That's what Table Topics is all about. An opportunity to speak on your feet, unrehearsed. One of the most interesting twists that I've seen on that, I had a chance to participate in Table Topics blindfold. It was amazing to see how we rely on our sight to help us as we speak. And I like this concept of pause as a way to really reinforce some of those skills as well. Our Table Topics master for today is Distinguished Toastmaster Rick Davis.
Thank you, Rick. I love Table Topics. I think after you become a Toastmaster, you hate Table Topics for the first 3 or 4 years if you're a Toastmaster. Then after that, you get to the point where you say, nobody called on me on Table Topics. At the last Toastmaster meeting, they were giving out nicknames, and Steve got the nickname of Maverick, and I got the name of Table Topic Terror. So T3. So I'm the Table Topic Terror. I'm here to terrorize you today, and I'm going to take a different approach. In the past, I've done bad book reports. I've done what is this picture, that sort of thing. But today I was thinking about obsolete versus non-obsolete. We have so many things now that seem to be becoming obsolete, and I'm wondering if you really agree with that or not, and if not, why not? If so, why? And one of the things that's becoming obsolete is the telephone landline. I'm one of the few people in the world, I think, that still has a telephone that's attached to a wire. Steve, why don't you come up and tell us, is that obsolete, a landline?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Actually, you do hear quite a bit about people going exclusively to a cell phone. They eliminate their landlines completely. I don't know that we will see landlines completely vanish, because there are a few things where you really do need to have, or you want to have, a landline. We have one, so you have some company. There's a few of us around that still have landlines. One of those being, if you have a home security system, you really need to have a landline, unless you want to pay for the additional costs of having a cell line that your alarm system hooks into. Another thing that I think is interesting that people probably don't think about too much is if you have a major power outage, and this doesn't affect cell phones as much as it does alternate phone services that you can have. If you have phone service through internet or you have it through cable, if you have a power outage, you don't have a phone. But with a landline, you will still have a dial tone and you can still call for help if you need it. I think that one of the things that is good about this competition is it's going to force our landline providers to be a bit more innovative, come up with some additional things that they maybe haven't been offering so far. One of the things that I have with the landline service that we have is we've got cheap long distance, and I really like that. $10 a month, any time of day, anywhere in the United States. All the minutes you can use. I haven't found too many cell phone providers that will give you that for that kind of cost. Mr. Table Topics Master?
As a young fellow, I enjoyed working in the dark room, printing off my own photographs, using the cameras with the big lenses, all that sort of thing. Film has gone away. There's just no way to even deal with photographic film anymore. And so I went to digital, and now we have digital cameras. But now every phone you get, every mobile phone has its own camera in it. And I'm just wondering, is the camera as a separate thing? Is the camera gone away as an entity, and we're all stuck with crummy cell phone pictures? Don, can you talk about that?
Personally, I don't have a cell phone or a camera on a cell phone. My daughters do. They enjoy the pictures and things. I remember when I was in high school, I had I belonged to the camera club, what was called the camera club, but we used to go around taking pictures with these little box cameras. And we learned about photography. All of us had a darkroom we tried to build a darkroom at home so that we could process our film. We also had one at school in case we weren't successful in the home type. I can recall one incident where I was making my darkroom in our basement, and there was a light coming down from the ceiling, and I didn't want that in my darkroom, so I got this metal shears to cut the wire. So bam! The whole thing fell down. Luckily, I didn't feel a shock or anything. It must have shorted or something before it came through the wire. But that was one incident where I was not successful in making the darkroom. I just kind of let it go after that. But we did have it at school, and it was a good experience to be able to take pictures, to learn about pictures, to learn about the developing process. And I think we might miss some of that with the cameras. Thank you.
At home we have an iPad, and my wife uses that almost to exclusion. She does not use her laptop other than when she's doing email or something like that. My kid has an iPhone, and he does everything on his iPhone. He doesn't use his laptop or his computer. I'm just wondering if a laptop or a desktop computer is obsolete and we should be doing everything on our smartphone. Charlie?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. I go back before the computer days, but as time goes on, you can't block technology and you can't block progress. So what happens, I think, is it becomes nostalgic, just like the old tower personal computer is a piece of nostalgia now as everybody kind of leaned itself over to laptops. And the same is true with the tablets and the iPads. I know I'm out there shopping, and I say, maybe this is something I can do, so now I can carry my iPad in my jacket pocket, and I can be connected to the universe, and I can participate in life right from my jacket, and I may not need my desktop or my laptop. So, it's difficult to say, but as time goes on, I think, yes, they will be obsolete, and we will get smaller and crisper. Thank you.
I was watching one of these TED lectures. They're really very interesting. The one I was watching was by this futurist. He was talking about the future, in the future, whatever. And he was saying that kids today do not wear wristwatches, that they all use their cell phones for the time. I'm just wondering if a wristwatch is something that's going to be obsolete. Carol.
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and our viewing audience at home. Not for me. My wristwatch is not going to be obsolete. I don't like using that cell phone because I have to, it doesn't stay lighted all the time if I forget my watch or I lost it a little bit. But I use a digital. You cannot find ladies' digital watches very much. They're big, clunky things, and I want a smaller one than this even that I used to have. So for me, I will always wear a wristwatch. I will not be modern and use my cell phone for everything like everyone else does. But that's, for me, I will always use my wristwatch. I prefer using my wristwatch. And I think that's a very interesting question on these obsolete things. Just about there. Yes. Okay, Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, I hope I didn't put too much terror into your life, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rick. It's always fun to watch the impromptu speaking portion of the meeting, namely because you never know what's going to come. You never know what the topic's going to be. They tend to be quite seasonal in nature, but this was a good one on obsolescence. I like that.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well. There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
We now transition into the prepared speech portion of our meeting. Many people do join Toastmasters to help with their impromptu speaking skills, but in many cases, they're here to help them in the work environment. In the work environment, many of us are asked to give presentations, to give reports, to do training, and Toastmasters is an excellent opportunity to do that. And that's exactly what we're going to see from our next speaker. One of the advanced manuals is Speeches by Management. And Rita Ferguson, our Vice President of Public Relations, she's an advanced communicator bronze and competent leader, is going to be here today doing project number 4, the status report, from the Speeches by Management Advanced Manual, and her topic is shipments to Argentina. Shipments to Argentina, Rita Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Rick. Fellow Toastmasters and our listening audience, in order to put everyone on the same page, I've been asked to provide a status report on shipments to Argentina, primarily because they've had a lot of complaints that our materials are costing too much in freight in order to get down there. Just a little bit of a background. Our export orders are always handled by a call center in Pittsburgh. That group is being disbanded, and they had asked the business units to please handle their own export shipments. Not a problem. We've handled export shipments before, and so we're quite adept at doing so. We started this in February. The complaints started rolling in April and May, asking why are the costs bouncing all over the place. Some of the containers cost $3,600 to get down there, some of them as much as $6,000. We walked in the middle of this, came into the middle of this, and so today I will give you the results of my findings. First of all, we took a look at the 5 containers that were primarily their concern. You can see on our first container, it only cost about $3,600, and then the costs started to climb, and now they started to drop again. So what's going on? They didn't understand the freight costs. And the top part of the graph and the bottom part of the graph are basically, you'll see the same line. The top part of the graph is the total amount of freight. The bottom part of the graph is the cost per gallon. We ship our materials in 55-gallon drums, and a container is about 4,300 gallons. So we took a look at what was going on. The reason this became a problem for Argentina is that the cost of getting the material down there is rolled into their price. They set their price based on approximately $3,600 to get the container down there, and if it's costing $6,000, they are now either losing money or they're on the very bottom edge of their profit margin. All the shipments for which we received complaints had two things in common. Number one, they were all water-based materials. Number two, they were all made at Oak Creek, Wisconsin. And as we well know, Oak Creek has a cold climate, and it has a very short summer. The climate is cold and it starts quickly. And what we also found is our little friend, the penguin, was part of the problem. Starting in October, the little penguin starts appearing on the drums. This happens automatically. It's based on the fact that the formula is marked as freezable. Once the penguin starts appearing on the drums, the shipping department starts what they call the Winter Protective Service. Winter Protective Service will last for 5 months. And it completely changes how materials get down to Argentina. Let me give you an example of a standard shipment during the summer months when we don't have a problem with freezing. This is a map of Wisconsin, in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and Chicago. The containers are loaded at Oak Creek, trucked to Chicago. That costs about $500, and that's standard. We're going to see that happen with most of the shipments. In Chicago, the container is loaded on a rail to New York. And once we tender that container to the rail in Chicago, we are tendering it to the vessel, which means that the vessel takes possession in Chicago and continues to hold possession until that container reaches Buenos Aires. The cost of getting that container down to Argentina from Chicago is $3,180. In fact, that's approximate, but that's about what our contract says. We have fuel surcharges that could change things a little bit. So the total of getting a container down to Argentina is about $3,700. All right, our little penguin kicks in. We have to protect the material. We do not want to put it in a container going to New York. New York is just as cold as Wisconsin. So they put it on a truck, and they bring it down to Savannah, Georgia. It is not containerized. It is shipped in a regular truck. The cost of getting it down to Savannah, Georgia by truck varies, again, based on fuel surcharges and other types of things, between $2,600 and $3,400. So as you can see, I'm just at Savannah, Georgia, and I haven't even put it on a vessel yet. Not only that, I have to get that container loaded and moved from the warehouse in Savannah down to the port, another $600. That is exactly what's going on, and that's costing approximately $6,000 to do that. It caused us to ask other questions. For example, do we really have to have our penguin on those drums? We've had this technology for about 25 years, and yes, 25 years ago, our technology was very fragile. Water-based materials would freeze, the pigments would drop out, the lubricants would drop out, other additives, and we could not get them back into solution. But was that true today? We had our lab do several tests with materials that were by freezing our materials. 7 days frozen, no problem. 30 days frozen, a bit of a problem. So we do say, yes, we want to protect the material, but do we want to go through Savannah? Our suggestion now is that we rail down to Jacksonville, Florida. We can do the same thing, put it in a container in Oak Creek, get it to Chicago, tender it to the vessel in Chicago, and bring it all the way down to Buenos Aires for a cost of approximately $3,900. It's a little bit more than going to New York, but it's a cheap insurance policy, and it's far less than going through the Savannah. So we've taken a look at the three different options. It's in New York, Savannah, and Jacksonville. We're eliminating Savannah altogether, and we'll do either New York from the months of March 1 through October 31st, and Jacksonville from starting November 1 through the end of March, if I have that right. What we find is several things. Not only do we save money, but we don't handle the drums as many times. Every time you handle a drum, there's a cost to that, and there's a problem where you can damage the drum. Those are my findings. Those are my recommendations. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rita. My question is, what are we going to do with all the money we save? Maybe we should go on a road trip to Buenos Aires. That would be an excellent way to use that money. We will now pause for a word from our sponsor.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Lichtner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a despot. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
Welcome back. We're now ready for our second prepared speech here at the Saturday, May 19th meeting of TV Toastmasters. And boy, are we in for a treat. Today, we've got a guest speaker from the Tri-County Toastmasters Club, Dorothy Blake. Dorothy is a competent communicator and an advanced leader bronze. She's a former educator and administrator, and she continues to serve youth. We are here to listen to Project 3 from the Persuasive Speaking Manual. The objective is the winning proposal. Dorothy's speech title is 2 Thumbs Up, the Youth Leadership Program. Dorothy Blake, 2 Thumbs Up, the Youth Leadership Program.
Do you love being a Toastmaster? Give me 2 thumbs up. Do you want to work toward your Advanced Gold Communicator Award? Give me 2 thumbs up. Are you interested in taking the Toastmaster mission into youth and the community? Give me 2 thumbs up. Well, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and all of you kind people watching at home, I am in the right place because I am on a mission. I am on a mission to find at least 10 Toastmasters who are willing to be coordinators for the youth leadership program through Toastmasters. Now let's give you a little bit of a description of what that program is. That's described as a mini Toastmaster experience consisting of 8 sessions for students aged 12 through 18. Now, what do their meetings look like? They look a lot like our meetings. They prepare speeches. They give impromptu table topics. They do peer evaluations, as well as listening activities and chairmanship skills. And the final session is a celebration where they run a meeting for their families and friends, their teachers and school principals, and it would look something like this. Bob Brockfield from Springdale Communicators and I from Tri-County Toastmasters worked through the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative to go to Dater High School and run 2 of these programs.
Now, you might question whether, are there students really interested in doing this? But I can assure you the answer is yes. Already in those schools through the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, there exist leadership clubs with a teacher on site in charge where the students are held accountable for the program. And they are looking for you, role models who know the Toastmaster program, because these students also know that in order to succeed, in order to get ahead, they need leadership skills and they need public speaking skills. For example, in our celebration, we had Juan, who spoke about being raised by his grandmother and the poignant story of her recently passing. He's a junior in high school. Or Shantae, who was ill throughout that entire day, and yet she got up 15 minutes before this meeting started. Her father drove her to the school so she could complete the youth leadership program. She was that committed and that dedicated to it. These students know they need it for college applications, and they want to succeed. They're looking for you, people who can help them develop their self-confidence and self-esteem, something that they may not be getting at home. So how do you get from today to this photograph? Well, the answer is pretty easy. It only takes 3 things. First, you, a coordinator, someone who's interested in youth, someone who might be interested in continuing on the path to your youth, to your Communicator Gold Award. The second thing, you need your Toastmaster Club. The Toastmaster Club is the organization who will finance the Youth Leadership Program packets, which is about $5 per student. And you will need to ask some of your friends of Toastmasters to be assistant coordinators, people to help you. Because they can then, after 1 or 2 sessions, get their feet wet, like Carol did, and hopefully will go out into the community and be a coordinator in the future. And finally, the third thing you need is a youth group. But I can help you with that, because with my contacts through the Cincinnati Public Schools and the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, I already have over 20 schools who want this program. But you may also have youth programs in your community through the 4-H or Scouts. Now, what are the challenges that a coordinator faces? Well, Bob and I would say there's probably 2. The first one would be time. We mentioned 8 sessions. Our sessions were 1 hour in length. However, we all know that when there's something to be organized, it will take time, extra time in preparation and in follow-up. And in addition, you would have to go to your Toastmaster Club, and you would also have to have a chat with that on-site teacher coordinator to make sure that everything's going to transition smoothly. Now, to remedy that time issue, the Toastmaster Youth Leadership Program is extremely organized. Every session is well planned, so that can help reduce the time. And when you're working with your club and your assistant coordinators, you can do a lot of that over email and not in person, not having regular meetings. The second challenge, I would say, is the competition with after-school activities. We all know students are very involved with jobs, sports, family commitments, and we found that in our clubs that we did at Dater High School, that although the students committed with a signed contract to their teacher for the 8 sessions, even though that they received extra credit from the teacher for their English classes, there was still attrition. And as Toastmasters, we mustn't be upset or disappointed by that, take it personally, because look, at our own clubs, we see attrition in our own clubs. People get busy. However, we did work with the track coach, and we did talk with some of the other teachers to make sure that they could make it to the meetings. We also set up a minimum criteria in order to receive their certificate. In our case, it was 2 meetings to table topics peer evaluation. So if you have your challenges and then you know them, you can manage them for certain. So I would like to invite you to join me. Become one of those 10 coordinators for a youth leadership program. If we can do that, we can reach over 150 students in a very short period of time. And I can promise you that this experience, well, it can best be described as 2 thumbs up. Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. It's clear, Dorothy, that you still have a continued passion for youth. Very much so. And if you're out there in the studio or out there in the viewing world and you're thinking, I'd love to do this, I'd love to contribute to youth, I want to be able to help in the way that Dorothy suggested, you need to become a Toastmaster. The program is administered by Toastmasters and Toastmasters clubs. If that's something that you're passionate about, you can visit Toastmasters.org, find a club that's close to you, join a local club, and then they'll help you get in contact with Dorothy so that you can participate in the Youth Leadership Program. We'll pause for a minute for a word from our sponsor.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This farmer, he says, hey, hello? Sorry. But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Doctor says, chicken says...
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. We're ready now for our third prepared speech of the meeting. Today we have the pleasure of hearing from our Vice President of Membership, Darren Henderson. Darren is an Advanced Communicator Bronze. He is working from an older version of the Competent Communicator Manual, project number 7, called Applying Your Skills. The title of his speech is Blown Away, Darren Henderson. Darren Henderson, Blown Away.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. An author named Robert Weeder once said, anyone can look for fashion in a boutique or history in a museum. The creative explorer looks for history in a hardware store and fashion in an airport. Fellow Toastmasters, many would argue that this, the iPhone, and the company that makes it, Apple, are the epitome of innovation in the modern age. And I would agree, I love Apple products. However, I found innovation in a most unusual place about 5 or 6 years ago. Let's go back to that time. I'm visiting a Target store, doing my shopping. As I complete my purchases and check out, I realized I forgot something very important. So I parked my cart, opened up the door, and walked into the men's restroom. Now let's skip forward a couple minutes for obvious reasons. And as I'm washing my hands, and I look for the towel dispenser. And I realize, much to my chagrin, there is no towel dispenser. But instead, there's a hand dryer. You know, it's a nice-looking hand dryer, all stainless steel, very fancy looking. But at this point, I prepare to do the hand dryer dance. I think you all know what that is, right? That's where you put your hands underneath the hand dryer for about 10 or 15 seconds. Then you shake them off vigorously. Then in the final act of resignation, you just kind of dry them on your pants. So as I step up and prepare to do the hand dryer dance, I was both literally and figuratively blown away. Wow! This hand dryer was amazing. It felt like my hands were at the back end of a jet engine. They were dry in 10 seconds. Now, I'm an engineer, so maybe this is just a geeky engineering thing, but I thought to myself, this hand dryer is amazing. In the words of the Times, I said, this hand dryer is the bomb. Then I thought, well, why? Why is it taking my entire lifetime to finally come up with a hand dryer that works? I mean, come on, we've all known for years that the hand dryers were ineffective, right? Then I thought, and I did a little bit of research, and I found out that the hand dryer was actually invented all the way back in 1948. Now, I'm not that old. I can't attest to what hand dryers were like in the 50s or 60s if they actually existed. But I do know that for the entire time I've been alive, the hand dryers have been ineffective and basically useless. So why is that? And as much as I love the design of these new hand dryers, I mean, come on, it's not like sending a man to the moon or even as difficult as inventing a great smartphone. So why did it take so long to finally come up with a hand dryer that worked? And I have a theory that the improved hand dryer was driven by people who actually knew what the customer wanted before the customer knew that they really wanted it. I mean, I don't think that customers were writing letters to McDonald's or Target complaining about the lack of a good hand dryer, right? So there was not a big push to get a great new hand dryer. However, someone at these hand dryer manufacturers had the foresight to think that there was a market for this product if they could come up with it. And this gets to the crux of innovation. Innovation is defined as the creation of better or more effective products, processes, services, technologies, or ideas. But in order to be truly innovative, you can't always ask someone what they want. That's not the way you really get innovation. Steve Jobs once said, it's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. I have a good example in my own life. One of my favorite shows on television is called Game of Thrones. So Game of Thrones is a fantasy show based in a fictional universe which includes kings, queens, dragons, and lots of severed heads. Now, I don't read fantasy books. I don't even know what Dungeons and Dragons is. So if I were going to design my perfect television show, this would not even have made the first cut. I would not have greenlit Game of Thrones. So in my case, Steve Jobs was right. I didn't know what I really wanted to see until I saw it. Next, conditions have to be right for this type of innovation in the market. Because a great innovation is great as an idea, but it doesn't really become an innovation until people use it and want it and purchase it. So my theory is that the convergence of three factors led to finally providing fertile ground for the advancement of this new hand dryer. First, companies became more green. Green became popular. And businesses saw hand dryers as a great way to promote their efforts towards being green in this type of environment. A hand dryer versus hand towels can save up to 9 trees a year because obviously you're not cutting down trees to make hand towels. Secondly, over the last 20 years, companies have become much more laser focused on saving money and being more efficient. And hand dryers can save up to 90% of the cost versus providing towels. So they're much more cost effective. And finally, those first two factors led companies to put money into research and design to finally develop this better hand dryer. Without those two factors and the market forces, it's possible these companies would not have developed these better hand dryers. So as you can see, innovation is more than just a good idea. There has to be a market for that idea. And I would argue that 25 years ago, people weren't as environmentally conscious. Companies weren't as focused on saving money. And it's possible that even if this idea had come about 25 years ago, people would not have bought it. They may not have been interested. So as you leave here today, I'd like to challenge you to think about 3 great innovations in your life that are not just this fantastic iPhone, which I do love, or that great Chevy Volt hybrid electric car, which I also love, even though I don't have one. But think of some commonplace innovations in your life which you fail to recognize as great innovations. And as a closing thought, if I am fortunate enough in a strange way to meet the person who designed these great new hand dryers, I hope that it's outside of a public restroom, because I'd love to walk up to that person, Give them a firm and dry handshake. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Darren. Always a pleasure to hear from Darren, and today was no exception. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of hand dryers because you can see I have a lot more face than a lot of people, and I tend to wash my face when I go into the bathroom, whether it's something just to wake me up or to freshen me up, but it's really hard to get my head inside one of those hand dryers, and the new ones don't have a nozzle that turns, so I still end up using my shirt to dry my face off anyway. We'll pause for a minute for a word from our sponsor.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well. There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease...
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. We've just finished the prepared speech portion of our meeting and are now transitioning into the evaluation phase. Here's where Toastmasters receive significant value in coming to the meeting, sharing their speeches with us, and that is hearing from other Toastmasters what they did well with a few ideas for opportunities of improvement. And we are fortunate today to have with us Alan Blake. Alan is here as a guest, and we're putting him to work from the Tri-County Club. He is an Advanced Communicator Silver and has agreed to serve as our General Evaluator. Alan, thank you for joining us.
Mr. Toastmaster, thank you very much. Now, something I always do before I start speaking is I take a deep breath. A physical pause, and then I take a moment just to calm the mind, a mental pause. So thank you very much, Steve, for giving me that opportunity to use the word of the day on a couple of occasions. And obviously I'm delighted to be here as a guest and a general evaluator. My role today is simply to introduce our evaluators so they can evaluate our speeches, to ask for our reports, and then to make some general comments on the overall meeting. And I'm delighted to be able to do that. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our first evaluator, Carol, to come up to evaluate Rita.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and fellow Toastmasters, especially Rita. I had spoken with Rita before her speech yesterday to find out if there's anything in particular that she wanted me to look for, and she said she wanted to know if her presentation was clear and concise, even to a non-exporter of materials. Had I been able to read the manual beforehand, I would have had a better grasp for what I was doing here. However, it asked, did you construct the status report according to the OSFR pattern? So I wasn't sure what that was. Does anyone here know that? Oh, okay. I don't feel so dumb now. O is the objective. I think she stated her objective, that she wanted to lower the cost of the shipments, and the scope of how all the things that she had done to, and you presented well what you had done to find the findings that you reported to us, and then your recommendations to how you would be able to maybe not lower the cost of the goods, but would be able to have them protected better. Did the speaker build interest in his or her presentation? And at first we thought we might have an impossible problem on our hands, but after you presented that, we learned there were solutions to this problem. The one thing that you could have done a little better, although for us it was okay, we could see it, I would suggest a larger visual. However, she's going to have 5 people that she's presenting this to. It will be projected on the whiteboard, so that's not one of the things that you've already taken care of him, your visuals being seen a little better. I think I understood a little bit about shipping, export shipping, that I didn't know before, that there are many, many facets that are built into the cost, and the way you presented it, I thought it, am I the only one? Did you understand what she was talking about? Yeah, 2 thumbs up for Reader Ferguson, Mr. General Evaluator.
Carol, thank you very much for that evaluation. I'd like to invite our second evaluator to come up, please, and that's Charlie Labusco, to evaluate Dorothy's speech.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, and everyone. I'm here to evaluate the winning proposal given to us by Dorothy Blake. Before I start, I want to pause for a second. I want to step out, right, of the Toastmaster venue and just say that when we bring up topics around children, you get 2 thumbs up from me. So on the content alone, as a Toastmaster, I say I'm all in. So that was good. Just want to share that with you. Evaluating the proposal, I felt that the objective was clear. The objective was to recruit us as Toastmasters to be a part of your mission. And so as a Toastmaster, I feel this was the proper venue. The target audience is here for you. And so speaking to us as a whole meets that objective. As far as the proposal itself, positive and negative aspects, the challenges were brought to our attention, challenges like the competition around after-school activities and such. I would have liked to have learned more about some of the anticipated benefits. What are we trying to get the children to learn going forward? But overall, I did get both positive and negative aspects of the proposal. Very well organized. Clear, Dorothy, that you are an advanced speaker and communicator, so that was nice to see. It was very comfortable to listen to. We went from Toastmasters to the mission, to the content, to the next step, so it was very well organized. I thought you owned it, which was great. Great closing comments. As far as maybe some suggestions on more effective content, as a Toastmaster, I get the message now, especially with a proposal like this, that we have the power and the opportunity to make a difference even as one person. So if the objective of this proposal is to recruit other Toastmasters, I would hone in more on that and less maybe on the details of the presentation, the 8 sessions and such. Maybe that can come out later. I would take the opportunity to maybe pump up the need, and we're in it now. So we got the mission. So let's join together as a Toastmaster. But I thought overall extremely effective, and I wish you all the success in your mission.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. And now it's time to bring up our third evaluator, Rick Barron, to give his evaluation of Darren's speech.
Thank you, Alan. Darren's speech is supposed to be a culmination of all of the things that he's learned in the previous speeches that he's done. In this speech, he's supposed to apply all the skills. So we should have seen it all, from organization to a powerful opening, vocal variety, body language, tall order. Tall order, Darren. And you nailed it. In terms of the speech value, the way that you helped us think about innovation and how innovation in many cases goes unnoticed. That so many things every day are really, truly breakthroughs that we just pass off as everyday, ordinary things. That's what I got out of the speech in terms of your closing. Go think about three things, three innovations that you take for granted. Preparation, it was clear that you had rehearsed the speech. You did have some notes that you referred to on occasion, but I think it was more just to find your place and continue with the flow rather than relying on the notes themselves. Your manner up here is always poised and confident. You're very good. The presence that you have up here is very good, and that continues to be reinforced with this speech. I love the way that you organize this speech. The opening with the quote, the examples that you used, the little losing the prop, visual aid that you had. The body of the speech flowed well. You used the examples, the I'll know it when I see it concept, and in many cases we have to be ready for those innovations before they come up. Vocal variety I thought was average, and I think that's something that you could have really used to punch up this speech a bit, was to get a little bit more animated about something, that little dance that you do, or just get a little bit more animated about that. And in terms of language, I like the bomb. That was taking us back a few years. One additional thing that I think the speech might benefit from is to provide us some photographs of what these hand dryers had looked like over time, the behemoth that actually got used in the 1940s when they invented the hand dryer, all the way up to the new technology that you're talking about using today. That may have really helped provide a powerful punch for people, because the focus was on the hand dryers, not on the prop that you had with the iPhone. Overall, outstanding way to bring it all together in terms of all of the aspects that you've done throughout the previous speeches. Congratulations, it was an outstanding speech. I'll now return control of the meeting back to our president, Steve Aaronholtz.
Thank you, Rick. Let's have a round of applause for our Toastmaster today. He did a real great job. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and our audience at home just looking in. The next opportunity to come and see what TV Toastmasters is all about, and for our Toastmasters here, will be on Thursday evening, June 7th, starting at 6 p.m. at the Anderson Community Television Studio at 7850 5 Mile Road, and we're located on the lower level towards the back of the building when you come in. Our next Saturday meeting will be June 16th, and we start at 9 a.m., same location. I want to thank both of our visitors that were helping us on camera today, Miss Victoria King and Miss Stacy King. I also want to acknowledge a great job that our two newest members, Ava Lewandowski and Charlie Labasco, did today. They basically just jumped right in, so we're glad to have you here. With that, we will adjourn the Saturday, May 19th, 2012 meeting of TV Toastmasters Club 9523.